Hello there, Vlogmas day 21. It's the shortest day today. Solstice is here, and I am going to try making a Yule log today for the first time ever. I have my parchment at the ready, and my baking sheet, and my ingredients. So I'll pop the camera on the tripod, and you can watch while I make it. I have the recipe on big post-it notes on my kitchen cupboard above where I'm working, so that I don't need to read it on my phone, because obviously I can't read a recipe on my phone at the same time as I'm filming. The recipe I'm using is from bakedbychloe.com. I think she must be British because she's using self-raising flour, which we don't have here. So I'll use my plain flour and add a bit of baking powder. And her secret ingredient is apparently xanthan gum, which helps to hold everything together and reduce the cracking. So I'm giving it a go. And I was going to use parchment to roll it up, pre-rolling with the filling. But she said tea towel works best, so that's what I'm going to use. Well, the whole family is home today, so there's a good chance I'm going to have people wandering into the kitchen, but we'll see. I always have the edit function, don't I? I'm going to go with white flour today because I'm pretty sure that's what the recipe was written for. And because it's a special occasion and I don't do this every day, we're going to go with white flour. And oh, yeah, I nearly put it into the bowl, and instead of the scales, 200 grams. Because I've never seen self-raising flour available in Canada, whenever a recipe asks for that, I just add some baking powder. So that's what I'm going to do. And it's only a small amount of flour. So I'm just going to put a teaspoon of baking powder. I like to get all my ingredients out ahead of time. I may be a slapdash person in a lot of ways, but I do like to make sure that I've got all my ingredients at the ready. And as I use each one, it's nice to move it out of the way, so I know I've put it in there and haven't forgotten to place it in the bowl. Because that happens, right? You could get to the end of the recipe and be mixing your batter and suddenly think, did I remember to put the vanilla in, or whatever? Okay, so we have the flour and the baking powder. Now we need a tablespoon of cocoa powder. I like to sieve this, it tends to be a little lumpy sometimes. What I often forget when I'm using this microphone is that you can hear everything, even if I walk across the other side of the house. There was one day I was filming downstairs in my sewing room, and I needed to come up for something. And I'm talking to myself saying, oh, where's that sticky tape gone? I thought it was in the kitchen drawer. And my phone was picking it up from rooms away, as if I was still right in front of the phone. It was really funny. Okay, tablespoon of cocoa powder. I guess I could get the oven on and starting to heat up. Of course, it's in Celsius, and I can't remember what that is in Fahrenheit. Let's see, when I was at school, we learned that 200 Celsius is the same as 400 Fahrenheit. So 180 is probably around 375. Let's do that. Something like that. Okay, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. God, these jars are so heavy. Oh. Baking soda is another thing that needs to be sieved, really. It tends to get lumpy in the jar. Any little bit of dampness and it makes your baking soda lumpy. An eighth of a teaspoon of xanthan gum. Sorry if the crashings about are really loud in your ears. I put that jar down very heavily, didn't I? I do actually have xanthan gum in my cupboard all the time. I think I kept it originally because I was making this cashew tofu mayonnaise a lot, and it required half a teaspoon of xanthan gum to thicken it up. It worked really well. Plus, if ever you're doing gluten-free baking, it's a handy thing to have. Okay, 115 grams of sugar. Now, the recipe calls for caster sugar, which again is a British thing, which is, it's really just a bit like the granulated sugar, but maybe sort of ground down a little finer. This organic sugar from Costco, I think it's going to be fine as is, so I'm just going to use it like that. Sugar, 115. That looks pretty fine. I've seen way chunkier sugar than that before. Okay, so while I've been yakking, I've been melting the butter. Oh, it's ready. Perfect timing. I'm going to put my wet ingredients in a separate bowl. So 75 grams of butter. I'm using Melt salted buttery sticks. Earth Balance is also good, but they haven't been carrying it at my local supermarket as much lately, so I tend to go with the Melt now. And if there is a choice, the Melt tends to be a tiny bit cheaper, and they're both perfectly good. 250 mils of soy milk. 1 cup of soy milk. All right, this can go back in the fridge now that I've shown you that. This morning I popped out to the fabric shop. I had a person I needed to give a gift to, and I didn't see her on the weekend as planned. So we planned to coordinate our schedules at the fabric shop at 10 o'clock. So that was fun. She gave me a little gift back, but I haven't opened it yet. I've put it under the tree. So, of course, I had to have a good look around. I wasn't going to buy anything, but, you know, I saw a couple of things. I thought, that would be useful. I got a different kind of seam ripper. The one that looks like a little, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe I'll show it to you later if I remember. But it's a different shape from the regular spiky ones. And I think it'll be good, especially if I'm deconstructing jeans. And I also was watching last night a tutorial by Yoan, Y-O-A-N, Yoan Sewing Studio, I think she calls herself. And she has a pretty sling bag pattern on her YouTube channel. But she uses a certain kind of metal snap, and I only have plastic snaps or magnetic ones, and she didn't use a magnetic one. So I'm thinking, oh, let's just pick up a packet of those snaps, and of course the tool that goes with it, because every snap seems to have a different tool, unless you have one of those fancy presses that does a bit of everything, and I don't. This doesn't look like a lot of mixture. Yeah, what else did I get? There was one other thing. Oh, I decided to pick up a pom-pom for the beanie. I got a grey one. I didn't have the beanie with me to see how it would look, but grey and pink normally go beautifully together, and they were 55% off. And I just thought, to heck with it, I'm just going to buy one. So what I'll need to do with that beanie later, sorry about the noise, I will have to get a really good photograph of it. Once I've put the pom-pom on it, what I will do is photograph it for my Ravelry project page, because I haven't finished my Ravelry project page and marked it as 100% finished yet. And I like to do that promptly once I've finished a project. I love to keep that project page updated. Very satisfying. I think I'm going to wet this. Sometimes you have to wet the baking sheet to make parchment stick, and it helps to keep it in place when you're pouring batter. I did actually see it once. It said on the box of parchment to wet it, and I never realised you were supposed to do that. And most of the time I don't remember. It doesn't matter if my edges aren't perfect, because you can trim them before you add your filling and roll it up. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I'm just going to start pouring. This is really, really small amount of batter. I suppose it starts out super thin, and then as it rises, it'll fill the tin better. Cross fingers. I have a nice scraper here, which is perfect for getting mixture out of the bowl. So while I was walking around the fabric store for an hour, because yes, apparently I had to look around for an hour to check out what was going on. My husband was at the cancer centre. He had his very first appointment there today. They got to meet his nurse and his doctor, and he was, what did they do? They stuck a camera up his nostril and down the back of his throat to have a look at the lump. And they gave him lots of paperwork. And that took about 2 hours this morning. And then once he came home, he had some lunch, and then he had to go back again because they need to construct a mask of his face and neck, I suppose. And then once that is set, they obviously keep it at the hospital, and every time, like, this is assuming he does go for radiation, because obviously they haven't even got to the point where they're discussing treatment yet, but they are making this mask so that if he has radiation, it will hold his face and neck in the exact rigid position so that it hits the same place or targets the same place every time. I'm so uncomfortable with this whole cancer treatment thing. It always feels like the treatment's worse. The treatment's worse than the actual cancer. Sometimes it feels so brutal. Tomorrow he goes for a PET scan where they'll inject a radioactive solution into him before they do this PET scan. Of course, I had to Google what PET stood for because I didn't know, and I can't even remember because it's technical, but it feels like, yep, that the toxic barrage has started. But as he said, well, obviously I've told him whatever treatment course he chooses, it's his body, it's his choice. And to be honest, I would probably choose the same. But it just seems so brutal and so toxic. And if he does do the radiation, it'll be every day for 7 weeks. And he'll feel pretty shitty. Like after the first couple of weeks, they warn you, you're going to start feeling it. This is very thin on my ends here. It's always a challenge, isn't it? When you're trying to level batter that it sticks to the spoon so much, you're really like fighting it. One of the things we obviously already know is that cancer cells thrive on sugar. And believe me, once we've enjoyed our Christmas, he's going sugar-free, completely sugar-free. And I will probably do the same. So all of these baked treats and things that I've been making are going to stop once Christmas Day has come and gone. There's going to be more greens and less sugar. All the things that we know that we're supposed to do in our diet to stay healthy and get lazy about, we're going to have to kick back in. I think that's the best I can do. I have a feeling this Yule log will look quite small by the time it's done, but I don't know. Don't know how much it's going to rise up in the oven. Hopefully it'll smooth out. Well, it doesn't really matter if it smooths out because the whole shebang's going to get covered in chocolate ganache after it's cooled anyway. So it doesn't matter if it cracks or if it looks ugly. There it is, ready to go in the oven. And the oven is ready. Perfect timing. I've got my clean tea towel ready for later when I roll the warm cake up so that it can cool rolled up. And let's just move my massive bag of flour out the way. Okay, how long am I? Oh, well, oh yes, I did write it down. 12 minutes. Okay. And after all that supposed organization, I think I forgot to put the vanilla extract in. Damn! I just heated the soy milk up for the chocolate ganache, and now I'm mixing in the chocolate chips. Kind of tricky to do with one hand. It's all combined now, and I'm just going to set that aside now because I don't need that for quite some time. The cake has to be all cooled and rolled with the coconut cream, and then I can put that on. So I think what I'm going to do is take a wander around the garden, see if I can find some decorations, some natural decorations to put on the log when it's finished. This is what the baked Yule log batter looks like. It looks very lumpy. So I'm hoping that maybe as it cools it might calm down, or once it's rolled up, no one will be able to tell. It smells really good in here. I've got this lovely fruity tea brewing, and it's called Elfin Spiced Cider. Apples, rosehips, hibiscus, ginger, cinnamon, allspice, cloves, cardamom, orange peel, star anise, and cranberries. Oh, smells like Christmas. Oh, my sewing table's looking a little bit messy here. Clear the decks a little bit. All right. So here's the beanie. All finished. And this is the pom-pom I bought today. So what's nice about this pom-pom is it has loop on the underneath of it, which is elastic. And so what I need to do is find a button that will fit on the inside of that hat. Every time I walk past this tripod, it shakes around because my rug keeps creeping. All right, this is a pretty generic, unexciting button from the stash in sort of the right color. Let's see if that's the right size to slip through that loop. I don't want it too small because it'll slip out. Oh, yeah, I think that'll work. I'm sure I've got a suitable needle in here. I have to make sure I've left a bit of a hole for pulling the elastic through. I'll grab a crochet hook. That'll work. I think it's important to make a pom-pom detachable, especially these faux fur ones. You know how ratty faux fur looks if you accidentally wash it? Remember when I was working at the fabric shop, a dad came in with his daughter and she was so mad at her dad. He had accidentally put a faux fur garment, I think it was, of hers in the wash, and it just came out looking awful. It was an absolute mess. And she was very unforgiving of him. I felt sorry for him actually, because she was so mad at him. But he was looking to put it right by buying some faux fur to, oh actually I think it was just the trim on a sweatshirt or something, or on a hoodie. And he was definitely doing his best to put it right and buy some faux fur to replace the trim for her. Okay, I think that did it. Oh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? Almost makes me want it myself, but not quite. It's just not my colour. There. Can you see that? Let's see what you're seeing. Okay, there we are. I'm at it. Let's just show you what I bought today from the store. I got these heavy-duty snaps, 15mm, just in the silver because they'll be the most usable with any color of fabric. And that's the snap tool that goes with it, which hopefully I don't already have because I went and bought it today. if I suppose I should root around it in my drawers, because if I already have one exactly the same, I could take this one back for a refund. And then this is the seam ripper I bought today. Totally overpriced, I reckon, at $15. But it was, 30% off. So I know I'm keeping this, so let's just get it out of the packet. I don't know whether you've ever used one like this. So the usual seam ripper I use is this one. It's a nice big size, so you're not faffing about with a teeny tiny one. And it has the cover, the protective cover, which is handy. But also what's nice about it is that this sort of rubbery tip is awesome for pulling out loose threads. You just run it across the seam where you've got all the little ends. And it's fantastic. But I thought I would try this. Comes with a little cover on it. I think it's basically like a little sort of razor blade end to it. No idea if that's in focus because I'm just trying to move it around. So I'm going to have a play with that. Go in my little tool thing there. All right, I have to keep an eye on the time because not only do I need to whip up some coconut cream for the Yule log, but I also want to light candles at sunset today and have an alarm on for that. So I am going to get a pretty picture and update my project page. Well, I thought it was going to be a disaster as I was putting it together, but you know what? It doesn't look half bad. I put some frozen fruit in it as well, and the blackberries I thought looked a bit like pine cones or fir cones, so I've added them in. As long as it tastes good, that's the important thing, right?